My mother handed me an empty box in front of 50 people and smiled while she did it. My sister got a diamond ring. My brother got a gold watch. And me. Nothing. But what my mother didn't know, my grandmother had been quietly protecting everything for 12 years. My name is Elena Ashwood. I am 34 years old, a landscape architect living in a small town called Millhaven, and according to my mother Julia, I have always been the difficult one. The night that changed everything was my grandmother Dorothea's 90th birthday party. 50 people packed into the banquet hall my mother had spent weeks organizing. She stood at the front in a pressed blazer, holding a velvet tray, delivering a speech about legacy, about who deserves to carry a family story forward. The words were polished. The smile was rehearsed. And something in my stomach told me this wasn't going to end well. First, she called my sister Claire to the front. She placed a sparkling diamond ring into her hand with both palms, like an offering at an altar. The room erupted. Applause, gasps, tears. Then she called my brother Ryan forward and presented him with a gleaming gold pocket watch, antique, heirloom quality, or so everyone believed. More applause. More tears. Then she said my name. I walked to the front. She reached beneath the table and handed me a small jewelry box, white, gold-trimmed, tied with a thin ribbon. She leaned slowly into the microphone and said, with perfect composure, "After all, Elena, you always said material things don't matter." She opened the box. Empty. The room didn't go silent. That would have been better. Instead, a few people actually laughed. My mother smiled and nodded, satisfied, like she had just delivered the final line of a script she had been rehearsing for years. I felt the heat rise in my face. My hands tightened. But right then, under the table, my grandmother Dorothea pressed a small folded piece of paper into my palm and squeezed my hand once, just once. I didn't read it there. I waited until I reached the bathroom, locked the door, and unfolded it. 7 words. Everything real is already in your name. Calloway. I stared at those words for a long time. My grandmother had been completely calm all evening. Not sad, not nervous, calm. Like someone who already knows how the story ends. And now I was starting to understand why. What my mother had been doing for years behind my grandmother's back, and the moment Dorothea finally decided, enough. To understand what happened that night, you have to go back 12 years. I was 22 when I first noticed something wrong. My grandmother had asked me to help organize some financial paperwork, nothing unusual. I was the only one who came by consistently. I mowed her lawn, fixed what broke, drove her to appointments. It was just what I did. But there they were, repeated withdrawals from a joint checking account she shared with my mother. $15,000, quietly pulled over 3 years. No medical bills. No property expenses. I traced every transaction. My mother Julia had used that money to remodel her own kitchen, without asking, without telling, without a single word to Dorothea. When I brought it to my grandmother, she went very still. Then I did something I shouldn't have. I confronted my mother directly. She didn't apologize. She didn't even flinch. She looked straight at me and said, "You have no idea how family finances work." And just like that, I became the problem. Difficult. Ungrateful. A troublemaker. Within weeks I was removed from group chats, excluded from gatherings, and spoken about in the past tense at holiday dinners, as if I had already left and everyone had moved on. I learned to live with the quiet. But Dorothea didn't forget. That same year, she discovered something far more alarming. My mother had quietly added her own name to the deed of the Hammond family home, the property where Dorothea had lived for over 40 years, as a joint tenant. That single legal maneuver meant the house would bypass any will entirely and transfer directly to Julia the moment Dorothea passed. No court process. No family vote. Just gone. Dorothea said nothing. She didn't confront my mother. She didn't warn her. She didn't argue. She picked up the phone and called her attorney, Theodore Calloway. And over the months that followed, she built something with him that could not be touched, challenged, or undone. She never breathed a word of it to me. Because she knew me. She knew that if I found out, I would try to step in and defend her. And in doing so, I would hand my mother the exact ammunition she needed to destroy the whole plan before it was ever complete. So Dorothea waited. She let 12 years pass. She let my mother believe she was winning. And then she turned 90. But what exactly had Dorothea put together? And just how much was she protecting? In the next part, I'll tell you what Theodore Calloway revealed to me that Monday morning, and I promise you, the number stopped me cold. It was a Monday morning, 3 days after the party. I sat in my car in the parking lot outside my office, staring at the name on my screen. Theodore Calloway, attorney at law. I wasn't shaking this time. I just felt strangely still, the way you feel right before something large and inevitable arrives. I called. He answered before the second ring. "Ms. Ashwood," he said. "Your grandmother told me you'd be in touch." What followed was the longest phone call of my life. In September 2013, 12 years before that birthday party, Dorothea had quietly transferred everything she owned into an irrevocable trust. One sole beneficiary. Me. The Hammond family house, set on 40 acres of land, appraised at $1.2 million. A separate investment portfolio valued at $480,000, built steadily over decades. And the real family jewelry, the genuine diamond ring, the authentic gold pocket watch, the brooch, the pearl earrings, every piece locked safely in the deposit box that matched the brass key she had handed me 2 weeks before the party. Theodore explained it plainly. The items my mother had distributed at the party were high-quality replicas, professionally commissioned in 2012. My grandmother had the originals secured long before the performance ever began. An irrevocable trust cannot be contested, seized, or reversed. My mother's name had been legally removed from the property deed years ago. Every quiet move Julia had made to position herself had already been legally dismantled, without confrontation, without drama, without my mother ever knowing it was happening. I asked Theodore one question. Did my grandmother do this out of anger? He paused for a moment. Then he said, "She did it out of love. There is a difference." I sat in that parking lot for a long time after we hung up. The brass key in my bag suddenly made complete sense. The stillness on Dorothea's face at the party made sense. The 7 words made sense. Everything real is already in your name. But the story wasn't finished yet. Because across town, my sister Claire had just taken her brand new diamond ring to a jeweler, to have it resized. In the final part, the truth my grandmother had set in motion 12 years ago finally reached. The jeweler examined Claire's ring under the loupe for less than 30 seconds. "I'm sorry," he said. "This is cubic zirconia." The same week, Ryan brought his gold pocket watch to a horologist, who confirmed it was gold-plated base metal, worth roughly $40 at resale. My mother's carefully staged moment had collapsed completely. She called me that same evening, furious, her voice cutting through the phone. She accused me of swapping the jewelry. I told her, without raising my voice, that I had not touched a single thing. I suggested she call Dorothea. The line went dead. The following morning, Julia drove to Dorothea's house. I wasn't there, but Aunt Margot, Dorothea's sharp and plain-spoken younger sister, was. She heard everything that was said. Dorothea sat at the kitchen table, calm and unhurried, and told my mother the truth. She walked through every discovery she had made 12 years ago. The unauthorized withdrawals, the tampered deed, every quiet maneuver Julia had made. She explained the trust. She explained every decision she had made since. My mother tried everything after that, attorneys, formal letters, threats. Her litigator filed a challenge. Every legal consultation ended the same way. Irrevocable means irrevocable. Theodore sent a cease and desist 2 weeks later. The challenge was dropped. The truth spread through Millhaven on its own. People learned about the fake jewelry. They learned about the trust. They learned about the empty box. My mother lost the one thing she had always protected most, the narrative. I moved into the Hammond house. I converted the 40 acres into the landscape architecture business I had always envisioned, the kind that required land I could never have afforded on my own. The white jewelry box, the empty one, sits on the mantel in my living room now. Not as a wound. As a reminder. My mother and I met at a cafe months later. I wasn't there to argue. I simply told her that if she ever wanted a relationship, it would require real honesty going forward. She had nothing to say. Claire called me, tearful and embarrassed about the ring. She admitted she would not have believed me if I had told her sooner. Ryan drove to my house, placed the fake watch quietly on my kitchen table, and said he finally understood what his silence had cost all of us. We sat there for a long time without saying much at all. And Dorothea, she found peace before her health declined. The last thing she said to me during one of my visits was, "Stop waiting for your mother's approval. Plant things. Let them grow." 6 months later, that is exactly what I did. The empty box is now the most valuable thing I own, not because of what it once held, but because of what it taught me. My grandmother saw me clearly when no one else did. She made sure I would be all right, long before I ever knew I needed protecting. And every morning when I walk past that mantle, I remember the only thing that has ever truly mattered. The people who love you do not wait for the right moment to show you. They prepare quietly, for years, so that when the moment comes, you are already safe. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because somewhere out there, someone is sitting with their own empty box, not yet knowing what has already been put in their name.